Hey, this is Mr. Ward. I'm going to talk to you about exit ticket 22.2. And the first question, I'll blow it up a little bit so it's a little more viewable for our video. First question, and you'll notice I've kicked off the training wheels. There's no more multiple choice on this one. So let's see what we got. We're going to evaluate 7 times 10 to the negative 8 times 5 times 10 to the 5th and put it in scientific notation. So the first thing I'm going to do is say 7 times 5. I'm going to group the coefficients, and then I'm going to group the powers. So 10 is going to be to the negative 8th, and then times 10 to the 5th. Okay. Now, once I've done that, 7 times 5 is just 35. That is not in scientific notation format, coefficient format, so we'll have to adjust it. So then I've got 10 to the negative 8 times 10 to the 5th is going to be, I'm going to add the exponent. So negative 8 plus 5 is going to be negative 3. So there'll be 10 to the negative 3. So as I said, I've got to adjust 3.5 to become 3.5 for it to be in scientific notation. There's actually nothing mathematically wrong with this statement. It's just not scientific notation. And so it becomes 3.5, 10 times smaller. So 10 to the negative 3rd needs to become 10 times larger. So it becomes 10 to the negative 2. And that's the answer. Now we're going to evaluate 2 times 10 to the 5th raised to the 4th power. Put that in scientific notation. So we've got to break it apart into its two parts, and into its coefficient and its power of 10, 10 to the 5th. And then we're going to take the 2, and we're going to raise that to the 4th power. And we're also going to take the 10 to the 5th and raise that to the 4th power. So we're going to do this operation on each part of this separately. So 2 to the 4th is 16. And then 10 to the 5th to the 4th, we're going to multiply the powers because of the power law. So it's going to be 10 to the 5 times 4 power, or 10 to the 20th. And then 16 is not, as a coefficient, is not in scientific notation format. So we'll make it 10 times smaller. And then we have to account for the fact that it became 10 times smaller by making the power of 10, 10 to the 20th, 10 times bigger, or 1 more power of 10. Now, this slash means division, not multiplication. So we're going to go ahead and work this out. We got 1.6 times 10 to the 2nd over 2 times 10 to the negative 5th. So we're going to separate things out. And on the left, we'll have 1.6 divided by 2. And over here, we will have 10 to the 2nd divided by 10 to the negative 5th. So let's work that out. 1.6 divided by 2 is 0.8. And you'll already probably notice that's not a coefficient in scientific notation format. 10 to the 2nd over 10 to the negative 5th, we're going to subtract the exponent. So 2 minus negative 5 is going to be the same as 2 plus 5. So that's 10 to the 7th. So then we've got to adjust 0.8, and it becomes, I'll call it 8.0. So I made it 10 times bigger, which means 10 to the 7th needs to be 10 times smaller. And then finally, number 4, this is our complicated one. So I'm going to organize all of the stuff. So first of all, I'm going to have the coefficients sectioned, and I'm going to have the powers. So I've got 4 times 10 to the negative 4th raised to the 3rd power, all over 2 times 10 to the 5th times 4 times 10 to the negative 6th. So I'm going to start by saying 4, and then I'm going to say over 2 times 4. Okay, but that 4 there is raised to the 3rd power. So we got to address that. So incorporate that. So this thing here is raised to the 3rd power. So 4 is raised to the 3rd power. There's no extra powers in the mix here. So I don't need to worry about that. Now let's deal with our powers. So in the numerator, I've got 10 to the negative fourth, and that's being raised to the third power. So I'll just multiply negative 4 times 3 because a power to the power is going to be multiplication. And then I'm going to divide that by 10 to the fifth times 10 to the negative 6. And so that, I'll put that in here. I'm going to have 10 to the fifth, and that's going to be plus negative 6. So I can simplify all of that in a second. Now, let's start sorting all this stuff out. In these parentheses over here, the 4 cubed becomes 64, and 2 times 4 is 8. That'll be easy to work with. And then over here, I've got 10 to the negative 4 times 3, so that's going to be 10 to the negative 12, and that's divided by 10 to the 5 plus negative 6, so that's 10 to the negative 1, because 5 plus negative 6 is negative 1. And then 64 over 8 is going to be 8, and then 10 to the negative 12th over 10 to the negative 1, I'm going to subtract the exponent, so negative 12 minus negative 1 is the same as negative 12 plus 1. I'm reducing negative 12's negativity by 1, so it's going to be negative 11. So 10 to the negative 11. And you are done. Just answer the questions for the rest of this, and I hope that was helpful.